Imagine sitting outside on a warm afternoon, and in the blink of an eye, the sky snaps to a star-filled black. If the sun were to suddenly vanish, we wouldn't actually know it right away. Light takes 8 minutes and 20 seconds to travel the 93 million miles to Earth. We would continue to orbit a ghost star, completely unaware that our solar system's anchor was gone. Gravity travels at the exact same speed as light. During that 8-minute delay, Earth's orbit remains perfectly normal, tracing the path of a gravitational well that no longer exists in reality. Then the clock runs out. Photosynthesis stops. The moon, which relies entirely on reflected sunlight, fades to black. And without the sun's massive gravity pulling us inward, Earth breaks its orbit and flies off in a straight line into deep space. Our entire perception of the universe operates on a cosmic delay. The warmth you feel on your skin right now is history, an illusion of immediate safety provided by a star millions of miles away. Once the sky goes dark, the global temperature drops almost immediately. Within the first 24 hours, widespread panic would set in as thermometers steadily fall toward freezing all over the globe. Soon, the rolling waves of the world's oceans become sluggish. A thick layer of surface ice begins to crust over the water, locking the seas beneath a solid, freezing shield. This graph maps the rapid descent of Earth's average surface temperature. Over the course of the first 12 months, the line plunges past zero and settles in at roughly -100 degrees Fahrenheit. At those temperatures, the atmosphere itself begins to change. The surface becomes an utterly hostile wasteland, where exposure to the air freezes human tissue in minutes. The crust as we know it is gone for good. To have any chance at long-term survival, humanity has to look in the exact opposite direction, straight down. Fortunately, Earth is built a bit like a giant thermos. Miles of solid rock act as a heavy layer of insulation, keeping out the absolute cold of deep space and trapping an enormous amount of heat inside. Deep in the mantle and core, Earth generates 47 terawatts of energy from primordial heat left over from its violent formation. This is supplemented as radioactive isotopes, uranium, thorium, and potassium, decay underground, releasing continuous thermal energy. This internal furnace is strong enough to keep the deepest parts of our oceans liquid for at least another 1,000 years, safely protected beneath miles of surface ice. Down there, life already exists in the absolute dark. These are chemolithoautotrophs, microorganisms that thrive around hydrothermal vents. Instead of relying on sunlight, they survive by eating inorganic chemicals like hydrogen sulfide. These deep-sea ecosystems provide a working blueprint. They prove that biology can survive and thrive without a star. Taking a cue from those deep ocean vents, human survivors would need to build heavily insulated habitats miles underground, running entirely on geothermal and nuclear power. Heat and electricity solve part of the equation, but the ultimate bottleneck is dinner. Biological photosynthesis requires massive amounts of solar radiation, which we no longer have. To bypass the sun, scientists use a two-step electrocatalytic process, running electricity through water and CO2 to produce liquid acetate. In complete darkness, organisms like yeast and algae consume this acetate to build the molecular structures they need to grow. Growing food this way isn't a downgrade. Producing alginic acetate in the dark is actually 4 times more energy efficient than growing it outside under the sun. By severing agriculture's reliance on sunlight, humans could ensure a steady food supply anywhere they can generate a basic electrical current. We might have the physical means to stay warm and fed, but living forever in an enclosed bunker presents a severe psychological threat. In 2021, 15 volunteers spent 40 days isolated inside a cave system in France with no clocks or natural light in the Deep Time experiment. When they finally emerged, almost all of them believed they had only been inside for about 30 days. Without the environmental cues of a sunrise and sunset, our internal biological clocks warp entirely. To survive underground, humanity would have to artificially invent new rhythms, strict schedules for sleeping, eating, and working, just to maintain a grip on reality. It would be a highly regimented, cramped existence. Generations of humans would live out their entire lives in the glow of artificial lights, waiting millions of years for the Earth's core to eventually cool down. Earth wouldn't become a dead rock immediately. It would sail through the void as a rogue spaceship, powered by its own radioactive engine, hiding a fragile ecosystem beneath miles of ice. It makes you wonder how many other frozen, starless worlds drifting out there are keeping a similar secret.